Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Rice.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, that puts you in queue to talk to Michael. He's going to be just a little bit getting on the line with us, so I'm going to proceed to talk until he gets here. We're out doing errands, and sometimes time just kind of catches up with us. Today is our Memorial Day celebration, 291. I apologize if there's a I'm actually in a food court at a mall. But today is Memorial Day celebration 291. And what that's looking at is that we want to bring peace about on the world. And the way that we're going to do that is each person's going to have to go in and take care of their own wars, take care of the angers and hostilities and fears that are inside of them. And so we invite everybody to go in and to remove one thing that today removes you from being connected to your total being, connected to your source, being in a space of love. Whatever that is, take one day at a time and remove that today and help bring peace about in our world. I see Dr. Tim is already with us. Hi, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you. The noise in the background isn't bad. You're coming through loud and clear. Are you there? Oh, Jeanie.
I am here. I had put it on mute while you were talking so that it wouldn't drown you out. But yeah, no, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear a little noise in the background, but you're coming through loud and clear, and we're enjoying unseasonably warm weather here in Illinois, and just plugging away at doing worksheets and helping people do the work. We had a wonderful group on Tuesday night with a brand new member deciding to do a worksheet that ended up being very powerful for her. And she ended up trying to do work around a worksheet on her grinding her teeth. And she discovered at the end of it that it really had to do with covering up emotions that were much more painful. So she ended up with a whole bunch more worksheets to do, but she was relieved that she had made some significant progress in just one worksheet. So it's a fabulous process, and Jeanie can tell you how to learn more about it.
Yes, absolutely. Go to our website, which is www.whyagain, that's whyagain.com. Over on the right-hand side, click on Download Worksheet. The first link is the newly edited Chapter 24 of Michael's book, which in the book, Michael walks the character Richard through doing the worksheet. So you can read about that. The next link is the newest 7-step worksheet, which is in its second revision already for the year 2012. So the newest one is out there. And then there are links to radio shows from 3 different occasions from when Michael walks someone through step-by-step how to do a worksheet. They're all 3 different. So click on those. You can listen, and it will walk you through how to do the worksheet. And then the next link is for those who have no issues. And we've actually run into several of those people who have nothing to do a worksheet on. And I always tell people, if you've already cleaned out all your hostility and fear, which that's an awesome thing because we've been doing this work for years and years and years, and we're not there yet. So that's awesome if you've gotten there. But you can also do these worksheets on the good things. Anything that you think is outside of you that causes anything inside of you. So it's not just you made me angry, you made me sad, you made me afraid, but also the things like, oh, you make me so happy, or you just make me feel such joy, or you make me feel such love. Anything, even the good things. If we think that something outside of us causes us to feel anything inside of us, that is a topic for a worksheet. That's a little more complicated when you start doing them that way, but it works perfectly. Like I said, I'm not through with the negative stuff yet, so I don't go there very often. And one of the things that I have found since I've been doing worksheets for so long is I have started doing them as a journal. I have a journal book, and so I actually write them out, not necessarily word for word, but I will put in there, like, Dear Yahweh, which is my name for God. This is what happened today, and I'll describe the incident. And I'll say, and this is what it brought up for me, and my thoughts behind it, and the goal that I held. And I'll go through and I'll write it like I am writing a letter to God. But I'll go through the same steps of identifying my goal, canceling the goal, asking where could it help me, and looking at where I had violated it. This is something that came up last night. We had a phenomenal group last night. We had 69 people at the Healing Through Relationships workshop last night, and they were all just like right there. We were almost 11 o'clock getting home. Everybody just kept wanting to ask questions and everything, and that was phenomenal. That was great. Michael's always willing to stay until the church or the facility kicks us out and answer questions. But one of the things that came up for someone, and I just totally lost my train of thought. Somebody went by with something weird, and I just totally lost where I was going. I apologize. But we were talking about the worksheets, and down at the bottom where it says, how have I violated that goal? And it's not always, I wanted someone to be, good to me, or I wanted them to treat me lovingly. And so when you get to the bottom, a lot of people say, okay, when have I not treated someone else lovingly? And that's one thing to look at, and that's also your next worksheet. But also, when have I not treated me lovingly? And sometimes these goals that we hold that we want someone else to do to us or for us or whatever, and then we're not doing it for ourselves or to ourselves. And I'm sure you've run into that sometimes too, haven't you? And now it's my turn, Tim. Are you there?
Yes, I am. You went blank there.
Okay. I was just asking if you had ever run into where people were always saying, okay, on the violating of the goal, a lot of people say, well, when have I not done that to someone else? And it's sometimes a challenge for people to look at, when have I not done it for me?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And that's what a lot of us miss. One of the tricks of the mind is to hide from me and continue to hide from me the things it has labeled as too much for me to deal with. And I told a story not too long ago of driving to work and having a thought that made me flinch at some embarrassment from the past. And I thought, oh, that's a good thing for me to do a worksheet on. And 10 minutes later, when I got to the office and pulled out a worksheet, my mind wouldn't let me remember what it was. It would actually took me probably 15 or 20 minutes of sitting here and doing worksheets on other things in between them, trying to remember it and telling myself, it'll come to me, it'll come to me, it'll come to me, before it finally came back to conscious awareness. So we do this. Our mind, which is often divided against itself, will hide from us the thing we need to see to heal and move forward. So we have to hold the willingness, and we have to have an understanding of how the system works, and we have to have a tool that we're able to apply to it to get the work done. And the one you're mentioning right now, Jeanie, is a really important tool. I want to look at, when I have a problem of how I treat other people, I also want to, at the next level, make sure that I'm not doing that very same thing to myself. Because often my mind will let me see how I've done it to other people and let me work through worksheets on that, but then at a deeper level, hide from me what it feels is more painful for me, how I've done it to myself or other loved ones that are close to me, how they've done it to me. So yeah, it's a real important tool.
Yeah, one of the ladies last night, she was like, the worksheet she was working on was that she wanted someone to treat her lovingly. And I was talking to her, and it's like, okay, so then how have you not done that? And she said, well, I know, we've had issues. And I said, no, with yourself. She goes, well, I don't understand. What do you mean? And I said, how have you maybe not treated yourself lovingly? And she says, that doesn't make sense. She says, I don't understand. And it was like, I said, okay, have sometimes you've been overloaded and you just keep pushing yourself instead of taking an intermission and maybe go and just sit down and breathe or take a walk or something, but you just keep pushing yourself. I said, that's not treating yourself very lovingly. And it took quite a conversation for her to even be able to acknowledge what it meant to treat yourself lovingly. And yet she was wanting this other person to treat her lovingly. It's like, how are you even going to recognize it if you can't recognize it in yourself? So that was an issue for her.
Yeah, and I've had a number of people who come to me and they want me to tell them how to help build a positive self-esteem and a sense of deep love and appreciation in their children. And so I very quickly ascertained that they don't have high self-esteem or love and respect themselves. And so I ask them, how can you give to your children what you yourself don't possess? And they look at me like I'm from Mars, and they want me to give them a technique or a book to read to help build a strong self-esteem and self-love in their children. And I have to apologize over and over again, telling them, I really don't know how to do that. Unless a parent feels good and loving and solid in themselves, I don't know how a parent can engender that good, solid, loving feeling in their children. We can't give away that which we do not possess.
That's so true. And when you were saying that they just wanted you to give them a book or fix it or whatever, there are so many. We've been talking about this the last couple of days, whether to change the name from Mind Shifter Support to Mind Shifter Work, because people want the support. They want to go to someone else and let them support them or fix them, but they don't want to do the work. And we actually had somebody that was at the workshop last night, and they left a few minutes early, and they left their worksheet laying in the bench. And when I picked it up, they had just written repeatedly the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and it had nothing to do with the worksheet. It was like the religion that they were out of, what they called God, I guess, and they just kept writing that all over the worksheet. I mean, covered every inch of the paper with that. And it's like, yeah, so you're calling on God, and He is the power that can do it all, but He's not going to do it for us. We have a part in it. We have to do our work. And so, he didn't want to go in there. He didn't do anything having to do with the relationship worksheet at all. He just wrote that all over the paper, and then he left early. And it's like, if you don't want to go there and you don't want to look at it, and some people say, oh, well, it's too painful to go in there and look at it. But our life, when we hold those energies, it's calling out because it's actually becoming our disease in our tissue. And God, creator, the world, whatever your term is for that higher power, doesn't want us to destroy ourselves. And so it is going to bring to us whatever situation we need or whatever person we need in order to bring it up for us so we can heal it. But we're going to keep it hidden and not look at it. So we can either voluntarily go in and look at what's going on and try to clean it out, or we can let life come along and just kick us every day trying to get our attention, saying, hey, you need to clean this out. So it's going to affect us one way or the other. You can't just ignore it and it go away. You've got to do your work. You've got to go inside and you've got to clean it up. I think even the scriptures say that faith without works is dead. You can have the faith in the Creator and everything, but you still have to do your part that He's called you to do. And I think Michael has joined us now. There's some noise on your end, Michael, but I'm going to turn you on, so go for it.
Okay. Awesome input. I think you're right on track. I didn't hear what the question was, but I heard your answer, and you're right on. I'm in full agreement with you. So my apology for for being late getting here. We are on the road, as everybody knows, and we had an appointment at 12:30, but had a few wrinkles in that, so couldn't get free until now.
So Dr. Tim is with us, and he and I were just talking, and there's not really any questions going on yet. And we were just talking about how people didn't want to go inside and look. They wanted somebody else to give them a quick fix and, just tell me how to fix it. And then we were also talking about how people wanted to fix other people. I gave the example of the lady that I was talking to last night, and she wanted this other person to treat her lovingly, but it took probably a 15-minute conversation for me to even get her to build the brain cells. What does it look like for me to treat me lovingly? And I said, if we can't recognize it in ourselves, how are we even going to recognize it in the other person? She didn't even realize, what does it mean to treat myself lovingly? And so how is she going to know it if this other person treats her lovingly or not? She can't even recognize it. And so Tim was sharing that, he had clients that also, they wanted to know how could they teach their children, to have self-esteem or whatever, which meant they didn't have it themselves. And he told them, you can't teach them something you don't have.
Yeah, and it's interesting in the helping professions, they're one of the most drug abused and alcoholic groups in the world, and I think the reason is because they don't have the foundation with which to teach people to support and take care of themselves, and so they struggle and try to fix everybody out of a mind that they haven't taken care of their own. And the stress of that, I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, Tim, as I have, and that is, doctor, fix me. I want you to fix what's going on inside of me. And the kind of pressure that comes from that, and when one has not been given the tools to do their own work, they try to take that on, and of course they go into that profession because their thing is, their childhood power person dynamic is, I have to take care of everything. I have to fix everything. So when I go trying to fix everything out of a mind that isn't quote-unquote fixed, I end up with more stress and more people coming on to me with, fix me, fix me. Have you ever observed anything like that, Dr. Tim?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things that they used to try to warn us about in the grad school.
Right.
That if you don't do your own work, if you don't have therapy, if you're not willing to see your own faults, you can't help anybody else through a problem that you haven't at least identified clearly for yourself.
Right.
It's not that I have to have completely mastered it in order to be able to say or do something that's useful to someone else, but if I don't see how I might be getting triggered in the same way, if I can't own it and see through it, then all I'm going to do is project my garbage into my mind's image of that person, and they're going to seem to be more stuck in and more trouble than they really are.
Yeah. I'm in 100% agreement, and it's rare to find the actual tools with which to dig into those deepest levels. And I certainly, one of the biggest things I appreciate is this man Joshua who really knew how to do the whole process and taught it to us and gave us the how-to. And of course, all of the people who heard it but didn't want to do it, just like you're talking about, Jeanie, they heard about it, and they went, oh, that sounds cool, that sounds awesome, but they had no clue how to do it, and so they didn't do it, and they turned it into the teaching into something that it wasn't. As opposed to, let's go in and do our work. What's the work we need to do? What's going on inside of me that I need to clean up? So it's certainly, I feel so blessed to have found the actual teachings of the Aramaic Yeshua and have the opportunity to process through so much and to continue to process through so much. And many people, I talked the other day, Dr. Tim, about the friend of yours that introduced you to the work and how he became rather frustrated because it wasn't all done in the first year or the first 2 years or the first 5 years. And I haven't talked to him recently. I actually should give him a call and say hello and just see how he's doing. If his magic trick that he ran into, he had some kind of a teaching that was going to take care of it all, like in a week. And it'd be interesting to have a conversation and see how that's going for him.
Yeah, it's very different. I know that there are many different paths out there, and that's the blessing, since we have so many different styles and personalities to try and reach the goal. The thing I would offer is that the only ones that have ever resonated with me and have consistent message are the ones that say, if you don't look for the negative stuff that's in you and face it directly and dismantle it, you just keep airing it. You just keep pushing it down and sugarcoating it and giving it a new coat of paint, but it's the same old bitterness or resentment or hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting the dynamics that play out, when people make up religions out of the teachings. There was a gentleman at our workshop on healing through relationships last night, and I made the comment that in all the years of study and 45 years of work, I had only found an actual definition of what forgiveness was and how to forgive in the ancient Aramaic and in the Course in Miracles. And this fellow came up to me challenging me. It's like, well, who are you to say you've got the only path? And, of course, his brain cells were that he had the only path, and so he came to the accusation that I was saying I had the only path. It's like, well, wait a minute. I didn't say that. What I said was there are only two places I've found an exact and specific definition of how to forgive. And he's like, well, my path comes out of India, and there are millions of masters there. You're telling me none of them ever had? No, I didn't say that at all. I just said I've only found two places. Well, in my path, we've got forgiveness. I said, well, great. Now, I might be mistaken. How about you tell me how you do forgiveness? And then if it's in your path, I'll never again say I've only found it in the Aramaic and in the Course in Miracles. I'll add your path to it too. And all he could do was talk over me and accuse, of course, understanding how the mind works and how words function. What he was subvertly telling me or covertly telling me was he believes he has the only path and I'm on the wrong one. And when I said, well, tell me in your path, now you say you have forgiveness, tell me how it's done. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, tell me how you forgive. Well, we know how to do that out of India. I said, that's great. Then tell me how to do it. And all he could do was kind of splutter, and I said, well, here's an example. If you said to me, Michael, how do you drive a car? I could tell you exactly how to do that. Here's a key. You go out there, you put in the ignition, you turn the key, you put your foot in the gas, you put it in gear, and you drive. Here's how you do it. So just tell me from the path that you've taken how you forgive. And he just blustered at me and left. And it was just kind of an interesting interaction as he accused me of exactly what he was doing. And I put this forward because, as Shakespeare says, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below. And my words will tell me when I put words into somebody's mouth that never came out of their mouths, my words will tell me exactly what's going on in my brain cells. So what he was telling me is we have the only path and you're wrong, and you need to understand what I know. And when I asked him how to do forgiveness, it was like just frustrated, blustering, and, well, we know. I said, well, how? How do you do it? So it was kind of an interesting interaction, and as we each watch our own words, we each get to clean up the part of our own mind that hold what never belonged in a human form, which is any form of hostility or fear. By the way, our call-in number, if you were sitting with Dr. Tim and Jeanie and I, in your heart of hearts, what would your question be? And I don't know, is David on the line?
No, he's not, but we do have two callers.
Oh, okay, so we've got a couple of callers. Awesome. So if you've got a question
David is on the line now, too.
Okay, so if you had a question for David, for Tim, for Jeanie, for Michael, what would your question be? Our call-in number, 646-200-4169. We've got 2 callers, and we've got about,
34 minutes.
34 minutes, so we've got time for calls. Let's go for it, Jeanie.
Okay, the first one is area code 828. You're on the air.
Hello. This is
welcome,
Rick Shirley. This is Rick Shirley again.
Glad to hear from you.
Right, good. Yeah, I was listening in at the beginning there, and I've kind of run across an impasse on sometimes on the worksheets. If there's an incident that concretely happens, I don't have a problem. But I was interested because earlier Tim was talking about a lady last night that had done it on grinding her teeth. And, I've got numerous little things like that I would like to address. How would that look on a worksheet to, say, doing it on teeth grinding?
So what I do is I would do a worksheet on myself. So number 1A. Actually, there are several different worksheets. With any issue, there are several different worksheets you could do, and each one of them will collapse a different part of the holographic projection system called the body's mind and rid us of whatever that is. So I would start out with a worksheet where I name myself in number 1A, and I notice the situation would be I notice that my jaw is tight and I grind my teeth. And the feeling I have over that is, I'm unconscious of what's going on here. I just don't know. I'm unconscious. And so what's the thought? Well, I can't be aware of what's happening here. So then I'd move, through the rest of the steps of the worksheet. And when I got to number 3, what would my goal be? I want to treat my jaw lovingly, gently, respectfully. I want to release this tension that reflects as grinding my teeth. And then I go to the forgiveness step, the canceling, number 5. I cancel my goal to be able to be relaxed and let go of this grinding and take care of my teeth. And then the key step in there, because whatever this issue's about, it's been so dissociated from, I don't pay attention to the triggers that resonate in me, this jaw tightness and these words I've never said and never dealt with. So then in 5B, that's where you invite Rukudukudsha. And for those who are new to the show, the words Rukudukudsha are representative of, from the ancient Aramaic, an actual elemental force that 2,000 years ago was taught was in us, that was feminine, that would undo the effects of our errors and teach us the truth. So here's where you're going to move into reliance on that elemental force. You're going to ask, I don't know what this is about, but I'm going to cancel the goal, and I'm going to ask you to show me what this is, what's happening here. And what will take place, when they ask the master, how many worksheets do we have to do around this issue? He ultimately said in Aramaic, 77 times 70. So I might do many worksheets around this issue until I get to the point where I can decode what's going on inside of me. You can actually pay money to go to people, $100, $150 an hour for biofeedback. And what a biofeedback machine does is it hooks you up to electrodes, and it tells you what your body's been telling you. Most people live in such denial and dissociation that they lose the ability to decode that hidden part of their minds. They can't read their own internal signals. And that's basically what biofeedback does. So it might take some time to learn, to develop the skill to decode your own internal signals. And I use the example of, we've got a guy who's an expert at computers, and I look at the error message that comes up, and thank God I've got my son who's a computer techie, but I look at this error message and I go, duh, what does this mean? I call him and I say, Michael, what does this mean? He goes, you just do. You just do this. No. He's got the brain cells for it. He knows how to decode it. I don't. Now, if I wanted to learn to decode that message, that error message, I could Google it, and I would probably spend 3 hours getting to begin to build the brain cells to comprehend what it means and what I need to do to correct it. And then I might spend another 500 hours trying to correct it. My son does the whole job in 5 minutes. So he's got the brain cells for decoding things to do with the computer. Probably everybody that's on the show has got some brain cells for decoding problems or challenges with the computer. But this biocomputer, which is 100 trillion times as complex and as capable as any monster computer in the world, most people won't take the time to decode their own internal signals that they've denied and dissociated from. And come by that honestly, because we've been trained for 1,000 generations. Johnny, we don't talk about that. Johnny, we don't look at that. No, we don't. No. Inhibitor. And so it's going to be a process to get to where, and I'd be asking for help of that power, Ruka Dakudsha, to assist me in decoding those hidden parts of my mind so that I can read the signals.
Yeah.
Does that fit? Does that make sense for your question, Richard?
It sure does. Yeah, it does. I've been having a little bit of trouble with that. I kind of run out of things during the day that I'm aware of that actually, that are. But I know there's a whole slew of things that I need to uncover, but I haven't been sure exactly. I've been going back through, like for one thing, some of the, like a mind shifter, how to translate that into a worksheet. I was using your mind shifter that you gave to people, but I always make twice as much as what I can spend. And,
right.
But with what I come up with, I kind of have a difficult time translating that into a worksheet. I have a lot of stuff to work with.
Well, what kind of things come up when you do that mind shifter? Let's see if we can help you to translate it.
Well, one of the first things that come up is anger at my parents because I constantly heard about the depression and how they had to live through it and how bad it was. And
okay. So you just did one on your worksheet. You just did step one on the worksheet. So the worksheet would be on parents, and they always told me how bad it was during the depression, and I'm angry. So that's my feeling. What's my thought? So you start drilling down into your mind into what's the thought that you use when you look at the situation of your parents telling you about the depression. What's the thought you use to produce anger? Are you breathing?
Yeah, I am.
Good. So what's the specific thought you use to produce anger when you think about your parents telling you about the depression?
I'm so sick to death of hearing about this, and
so I'd stop there. I'd stop there with those words. Have you got some worksheets there?
Yes, I do. Oh, yes.
Okay, so now I'd start a second worksheet. You're now touching into what I call the Hydra effect. You cut off one hand, you start seeing others. So I would put in a new worksheet, myself. So I'd name myself. I put Richard in number 1A, and then I'm sick to death. And I'd be doing some forgiveness work around that thought, because that's a sure way to kill yourself. So I just put that second worksheet, and then I go back to looking again at what's the thought. There's a deeper, so that's one of those Hydra worksheets. So I take that one and do that as a separate one. But there's a deeper thought, and the thought around the anger, if I were in your position, the thought I'd be using to cause anger when my parents tell me about that is that my parents are trying to beat me down, they're trying to control me, they're trying to get me to be quiet. They want me to stop wanting things. They want me to stop speaking up or asking. they'd be some of the thoughts for me that would probably be the cause of my anger there, the way I would generate anger in that kind of a situation. Now, that may not be the same for you, but that would just be some examples that I would see as key examples.
Yeah.
So then I'd go down the list. Let's just pick one. Let's say it's the thought that they want me to shut up and stop asking for things. So then when I got down to number 3, what would my goal be? So number 2, I'm going to choose to love truth, and I'm willing to process this. How long do you suppose in your bloodline this thing of poverty and, each generation telling the next generation how bad it was for them? They walked to school 2 ways uphill and the snowstorms and summer and, all of that. So the goal in that situation, if that were my worksheet, would be something like, well, what I really wanted was for my parents to listen to me and to support me with the abundance that we had at that moment, rather than live out of the lack of abundance that they went through during the Depression. So that would be the kind of goal that, for me, would fit in there if that were my worksheet. And then I'd go in and I'd cancel that goal, and I'd ask Ruka to go to work, and I'd look at this. So this is the drilling down process. I'm looking into deeper and deeper parts of my own mind, and those places that hold those realities that I've never resolved. This is how you get to them and how you resolve them.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense for how to translate that into a worksheet?
Yes, it does. It does a great deal.
Cool. Okay, any more things that come up in that when you're working on that particular mind shifter?
Well, there's I get resentment because my parents were, I grew up going to Unity, and I get resentful that I got that song and dance, even though they should have known better, and they were indoctrinating me in, what is a lower path.
So there's your next Hydra worksheet. There's your next worksheet. So I'd start a 3rd worksheet now, and I'd start out. You just identified the goal that you had for your parents. I wanted my parents to be more aware.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to be genuine in their beliefs, because what you were seeing was their hypocrisy. You were seeing them language about abundance, but then live in poverty, a poverty mindset. And that hypocrisy is a pretty common step in the process, because until we've done the internal work, we can take on a new belief system, but what's going to govern and define us is the old belief systems, the old dissociated stuff. So they go to church and they hear about this abundance teaching and, your design, I come to bring you life and bring it more abundantly, so it's rah-rah, yay, and then they talk out of the other side of their mouths. And what that means is they have not resolved that issue yet. They're working on it, but their belief is a step ahead of their action. So that would be the next worksheet I would suggest you go to in that. And so you identified that it's resentment and, the goal of I want them to be consistent.
Yeah.
And, you might look at, because we know that power, person, dynamics, control, how often have you talked out of 2 sides of your mouth? How often have you said one thing, well, I'm going to do this, dear, I'm going to treat you lovingly, gently, respectfully. I heard that Michael Rice guy doing that commitment in that workshop, and I loved it, and I'm going to do it. And you did it, right? Until the next time she gave you the look. And then what happened? You went right back to the old gut-level stuff, just like we all do, until we collapse that and clean it out.
Yeah. I know one thing I've tried doing worksheets on is that I feel like such a fraud. That hypocrisy, my own. That it brings up a lot of guilt.
So there's your next Hydra. There's your next worksheet. Okay. Remember, the Hydra was the creature in Greek mythology. When you cut its head off, several more heads showed up. So now you're going to, the worksheet's going to be on self, and I want to be consistent instead of being hypocrisy, would be the goal in number 3. So, and then the situation would be I can't live up to what I aspire to. So that would be the situation. I can't live up to what I aspire to. And you know what? I can't either, Richard. If you watch my life too closely, I am a hypocrite. And so it must be with all teachings that are alive. A lot of people are turned off by hypocrisy. They hear somebody say one thing and watch them do another, and they walk away saying, well, that's obviously garbage they're doing. However, my offering is that hypocrisy is a very positive and natural step in the process of healing. If we've got a dead teaching, there probably won't be too many hypocrites. If it's already dead, everybody's caught up with it, they're all by rote living out that particular method, whatever it is. But if they're faced with a new challenge, they don't do it. If somebody says, well, you know, gee, our teaching says we're supposed to do this, and obviously you died in the teaching a long time ago because you're not doing this. How about if you do that? They'll turn on you and rend you from one side to the other. They'll rip you apart for having done that. They'll condemn you. Jeanie had a situation where she communicated with a preacher that she used to know, and this preacher said when she invited him to live up to the words that he spoke, this teacher said, I pray that God will bring you down. One of, you know, his own congregants. I pray that God will bring you down. And all she was doing was saying, gee, this is what our teaching says we're supposed to do. Why don't we do it? So why is hypocrisy a necessity in a live teaching? Because in a live teaching, we stand on a platform of our current level of understanding, and we can see just up to the top of the next hill. And we speak what we learn from the top of the next hill as we're progressing in that direction. But because we speak it doesn't mean we've worked through it and we're able to embody it. So there's a process, there's a time lag. If one's really in a live body of work and really truly doing their work, their speaking will always be ahead of them. That's as it should be, because when it's alive and once I reach the top of that next hill and I've embodied what I learned as I could see from that platform I was standing on, I've now got a new platform. I can see another whole mountain range I need to integrate. And that mountain range that I see from that level, I'll be taught. And as I'm taught, do I live it? Can I live it? No, my carbon-based memory is in a whole different world. But if my work is alive, I'll continue to do my work, and I'll break through that level and the next level and the next level. And I'll just say from 45 years of having done this, I haven't seen an end to it yet.
Yeah.
And I know Tim's been working for doing his work diligently for many years. Jeanie, David, have any of you guys seen an end to it yet?
Not from this
Not
perspective.
So I acknowledge you and congratulate you, Richard, for being a hypocrite. And you're alive and you're doing your work. And so I support you forgiving your hostility that you project on yourself, that you projected on your parents for their hypocrisy. And when you're a hypocrite, gently breathe, use the tools, and gently take yourself to the next level of your work instead of beat up on yourself like you learn to do from and with your power persons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's yeah.
And notice that, you know, and you've been working with this work now for how long, Richard?
What about 4 weeks now? A month?
4 weeks.
Well,
but notice
you guys were.
Go ahead.
No,
was it Sarasota?
Since you guys were in Harmony.
Okay, but weren't you at the workshops in Sarasota before that?
No, not that far back.
I was thinking you were at Sarasota.
No.
In any event, notice that in just a matter of a few weeks, you're to the point where you can ask those questions that were not even askable before. And you're right on track with your process. You're right on it.
Oh, great.
Awesome. So we'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday and for the week at Unity in North Tampa. For anybody that's listening that's in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area, St. Petersburg, we'll be at Unity North in Tampa starting Sunday. We'll be doing the services. There are 2 services, 9:30 and 11. And then I think at 2, the workshop starts 2 to 6. We'll do Why Is This Happening? To me again. And then we'll be doing workshops Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing on Saturday. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And is there anything else we can do to support you at this moment?
No, not that I can think of. You've given me a lot of help here, and I can. It's going to get me going. So, thank you very much.
All right, we bless you, appreciate you, and love sharing the planet with you. And Jeanie, have you got another caller?
We do have another caller, and this coming Sunday in Tampa, the Why Again starts at 1:30. 1:30 to 5:30.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Cool.
Okay, and our caller is Sarah. And first of all, Sarah, thank you for the beautiful music the other night at Stage Restaurant. We enjoyed it. And Sarah says she has a question for you, Michael.
Yes, cool.
Hi, Michael. Is my voice okay for the recording?
You're doing just fine.
Okay, by the way, I was standing at the book table last night when the gentleman came up and started kind of pointedly questioning you about, what you were teaching and about forgiveness, and he did not know how to forgive.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And of course, from that space, all he could do was accuse.
That's exactly what was happening, and I thought you handled it beautifully. At the end of the seminar, you walked up to the platform, and then you said something about you became aware somewhere in your life that you had a personal code that was holding you back and dragging you down, and that you learned how to turn it around to have a personal code that would help lift you up. And I just kind of went, oh, that's a good catchphrase. I need to find out more about that because, I've known for a while about the sacred code that each person has with God. And I did not read this in a book. No one taught me. I was told in a meditation about the sacred code that only God can see. No one else can see it. No healer, nobody, no psychic clairvoyant. Only you and God. And then I was confirmed as many people came up to me and started talking about they also knew about a sacred code that you have just between you and God that no one else can see or touch it. But what is this? You talk about the personal code that would either be dragging you down or holding you back or helping lift you up. And how do we find out where that is? Is this through the worksheet process also?
Yes. And the personal code that we're talking about is a personal code between you and your body's mind. Out of the multi-generational database that you call your body's mind, life learned to cope with what happened. And let's say the first time, like Richard was just saying, the first time that Richard heard as he went to church that it's supposed to be an abundant world, he went, that's awesome, that's great, I think I'll go there. But his personal code said, his personal reality structure said, no, our family system lives in poverty because we went through a depression and, there's never enough, and we know that. So that would be part of his personal code, that he would behave in a way that would tend to produce poverty. So let's say a situation, and Richard, I hope you're okay if we use you as an example here, but let's say a situation arrives where there's this opportunity to make a small investment and make a really wonderful, powerful return. Let's say to start a business that is totally within. Let's say that I'm the character now. So there's this business that's totally within my skill level. It's totally within my purpose, and it's going to just bring me absolute total abundance. My personal code will say, I don't deserve, I'm not supposed to have total abundance, so I'll look at the person who's giving me this opportunity, and I'll behave in a way that I'll turn them off. I'll say something, I'll do something, I'll look at them in a way that sabotages the opportunity that's being handed to me, and this person that's offering it to me will turn away and say, well, I don't want to work with him, get rid of that guy, forget it. And so that would be an example of a personal code running someone's life. So anytime that someone sabotages themselves, they're acting in a way that is consistent with their personal code that holds them in the place that they're in. And when we're talking about forming, the commitment that we used in the workshop last night, what I was speaking of was that I would, each time I found myself blocked in a particular area, behaving in a way that didn't work because that was the personal code, the good old family feeling that I had, then I'd start searching from the state of being and asking for support from the Creator. How do I repair this? What do I have to do to change this? So if what my good old family feeling presents, let's say in a relationship situation, is frustration and hostility when my partner says a certain thing, then my personal code is, no matter how much I say I want to do something different, that when that stimulus comes, my personal code will force me to be hostile and in a state of irritation. So as I understand the healing process more and more and on deeper and deeper levels, I'm going to look at that and realize that that's not consistent with what my human life is. And so I'm going to make a choice, and my choice will be, for instance, that line in the commitment that says, I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect. So now I've got a new goal to aim for, a new thing to aim for. I'm going to speak lovingly, gently, and with respect. And there's going to be a stress because my personal code says what I do when my partner, doesn't do this the way I want them to is I puke on them. That's what my personal code says. So now I'm going to use all of the tools. If we were in intensive right now, I'd be turning to the board and I'd be saying all of the above. And so we would be inviting someone to take the commitment and speak it to their partner when their frustration is up. We'd be inviting that person to do the forgiveness process, to use a worksheet to start to collapse this hostility that takes over because the personal code is based in hostility. We'd be suggesting that they take the codependence worksheet that we're going to do tomorrow night at Science of Mind or Center for Spiritual Living in Boca. We'd suggest that they take that and put it to work. We'd suggest using every tool possible to go in and live according to the new and higher personal code. So what I presented in the Healing Through Relationships workshop last night is a personal code that I've worked on for the last almost 30 years to support people in upgrading, to support myself and to support people presenting ideas that many people have never even thought of because their personal codes hold them in a lower place. So that would be where that fits. So it's an agreement you have between your being and the non-being self. And when the stress is up and the chips are down, the non-being self rules. And that's the personal code. Does that make sense, Sarah? Are you still with us, Sarah?
Is she Musicom, Michael?
Yes. Yeah.
She is.
Okay.
She's
She
dropped
said
off.
her cell phone dropped off, but she'll check the recording.
Okay. Okay, so has she got anything else in the chat room? Is that? Okay, cool. Then we'll call that thought complete and hope that serves, and we'll look forward to seeing you Friday night. If anybody's in Boca Raton, by the way, or Fort Lauderdale or West Palm Beach, anywhere in that area, come join us tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We'll be doing the free workshop, Codependence to Interdependence. So, Jeanie, do we have any other callers? Anything happening in the chat room?
No, there's no other callers, and there's just Peacemaker's making some comments in the chat room. It says rejecting portions of self through belief versus feeling. Anger sometimes is not allowing self to grow by hanging on to the pain.
Yep, that's for sure. And that's where the forgiveness process comes in, to delete and remove the anger, because anger does not have a place in human physiology. I love one of the quotes from Albert Einstein, and I may not have it exactly because I don't have it in front of me, but basically it was, only fools live in the bosom of anger. And there's so many people who will argue. I mean, over the years, I can't tell you how many people I've had argue, well, my anger helps me, it supports me, it really is great stuff. And it's like, no, it's probably the only thing that'll kill you, and it's what destroys your relationship. So get ready to give it up if you're going to do this work, because it's a necessity to be willing to get free of that dynamic called anger.
Right.
So,
Michael?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we do have a caller. We're down to 4 minutes. Sarah says, please offer my apologies to Michael. Myself, I'm disconnected. I will use the commitment on your website to lift my personal code and ask God, Creator, Holy Spirit for help. And our caller is area code 517. You're on the air.
Hi there, everyone. Rex.
Welcome.
How are you doing today?
We're rocking.
Awesome. A couple things. You had asked for feedback on the Mind Shifters work group versus support group. I really liked what Dr. Tim had said the other day about the criteria by which he has found a person moving through their more difficult pieces. And I think all of us in all areas and all levels, but especially when the difficult pieces are really coming up, is that the third criteria was to feel a safety net and a support. And one of the reasons that I'm uncomfortable, and I don't even know that I'm uncomfortable, I would suggest that I'm pretty comfortable. I actually feel comfortable keeping Mind Shifter support group, because what I've found is people come to the group to be supported, and when you come to the group, the energy of the group, the focus of the group, we're watching the DVDs, they're having information revealed to them that is just so uplifting and rewarding that they are doing their work by being there. And the energy of the group is very, very supportive of doing the work. And so by putting the work up front, sometimes that can trigger who's in there so much that they don't even show up for the group. So that was the one input I had on that. And I did do we had a spontaneous group. You had asked if I would consider doing 2 groups a month, and we're doing that now. And we had decided to start next month, but because of a series of events, we had a few people that wanted to participate now, so I did one that day, actually, on Tuesday, and we had 6 people show up, or actually 8 of us were there. And, awesome. And that, yeah, so it was very powerful, and I do get and totally agree that it is about doing your inner work, and it's difficult, and it's about digging and pulling things out by the roots and clearing and healing. And although you've been doing it 45 years, I've been doing it for 27, 29, somewhere in there, and many of us have been doing it for a long time, the rewards, or not rewards, but the benefits happen regularly, and it isn't all work, although that is what it appears to be at times. So that was the input I just wanted to share for those that are relatively new to the process. Stay with it. The changes happen quickly and rapidly, and there is a tremendous amount of joy that comes up when we clear the pain that is keeping our joy in suppression. So that was it, Michael. I know you're short on time. I love you, bro. I love everybody.
Okay, blessings. Love you too.
We're down to 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Well, we'll just say that we do have, I think, 1 space left, or maybe 2 spaces left in our Florida intensive, which will start on the 14th of April. We're down in South Florida, and we'll be up just south of St. Augustine, the 14th through the 22nd of April. We think we've got, I don't remember if it's 1 or 2 spaces left, and now we had a couple of people register last night, so it's filling up. And then we'll be in Tampa next week. The following week, we're going to do a 3-day, which may turn into a 4-day mini intensive in Sarasota. And we'll be in Jacksonville in a few weeks. You can check out our schedule on www.whyagain.com. Of course, the archives of the radio shows are there. You're welcome to go and download those and give them a listen. Put them on your phone, whatever, and give a listen to the radio show. And we're here to absolutely support you in every way we possibly can in learning the ancient Aramaic art and understanding of the tool of forgiveness. So we're here to support you. That's what it's all about. And then, of course, this summer we'll begin a 65-day intensive. I believe it's the 13th of July. We'll be doing a 9-day codependence to independence, a 9-day why is this happening to me again, a 17-day teacher training, a 9-day intuitive development, and a 9-day Course in Miracles. So that's what's on our agenda for this summer. And then we're heading west. If you have a location out in the western part of the country you'd like us to present, when we travel, we pay our own expenses. Our workshops are free. So we'll be delighted to get to connect with you as that time goes forward. So, Jeanie, any final thoughts?